I started doing workshops and doing groups where I'm getting up in front of others, like outside of the gym setting, and talking about resilience and perseverance and goal setting and vision and taking action. You should know what 1 hour of your time is worth. You should know the value that you bring to the marketplace. You know what your passion is. Starts with clarity of vision. If you don't have the clarity of vision, whatever next thing you get, you're not going to see it through because you don't have the clarity of vision. So the point of my pain was being told you will never run or jump again. And all that stuff, I was like, you know what? Like, I want to be able to take this even bigger. If you know why you do what you do, you have to know how to charge for what you do. That's how you're going to change your life, and that's how you're going to leave a legacy for your children and your family. You got to know your worth. Happy Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rob, and I'm back with episode number 393 of Shut Up and Grind, where we're all about overcoming obstacles, defying the odds, and inspiring you to clear whatever's blocking the path to whatever success you want in this lifetime. I bring guests on from all over the world. I've had guests from 6 of the 7 continents, and once they get Wi-Fi in Antarctica, we're going to get somebody from there too. All right, so if you're brand new, I bring the guests on to share their stories of overcoming, defying the odds. And you guys know that have been following me. I started this because I was told I would never run or jump again. And I chose to not accept that. Like going back to when I was a teenager, my high school coach told me I didn't have what it takes to be a high jumper in track and field. And I broke that school record and I held it for 21 years and then broke the triple jump record on top of it. And why? Because I decided to follow my heart. There are a lot of people out there, they're in a state of unfulfillment right now because you're not living within your purpose. And I bring guests on to share how they got out of that place of pain and into that place of purpose. So today, we're going to be speaking with Ian. And we're going to talk about why purpose drives focus, motivation, and growth, how companies become consistently and sustainably remarkable, why so many people struggle to define their purpose, and how to uncover the 7 words that can reshape your business or your life. So let me welcome to the stage, Ian. How we doing, sir? Uh-oh, are you frozen? That's not a good way to start the show. It's not a good look. Oh, man. All right, so let's come on in. After that intro too, that was a wasted intro. All right, let me bump them out. Let me wait till we get them back down there. So in the meantime, let's talk about my new program, Speak Like a Warrior. So this is geared towards male veterans who are dealing with PTSD. And I started this app. It's free. It's called speaklikeawarrior.com, where they can go in and there's a series of questions that the people will put in, the veterans will put in what it is they went through, that their pain, what keeps them up at night, what scares them. And as they answer each question, it's attached to an AI, and the AI will take those stories of pain and turn it into a story of inspiration. So again, that's speaklikeawarrior.com. So I'm going to be back later on tonight too at 6 p.m. with the New England OCR Expo podcast as well. Yep, looks like Ian's internet fell off because he's not. Oh, he's popped back in now. So I guess I can stop wandering, babbling aimlessly here. So let's give him a second to get reconnected. And again, let's go through, show you once again what we're going to be talking about once he's fully back with us. And hopefully we can get through this. Come on, Ian. Yeah, so in addition to the Speak Like a Warrior app, I also have another one that I'm not quite finished with yet, but that's going to be geared towards anyone that's dealt with any type of pain, trauma, having severe injuries, getting bad diagnoses, anything that you've gone through that you just don't know how to tell the story without feeling the pain all over again. And This one, it's a little deeper, where you go into multiple modules. And as you go through each module, it helps you to get further and further from the pain and more into how whatever you went through didn't break you. Because that's the real power in the story. Like me having a knee injury, like that's not the people hurt their knees all the time. People have knee surgery every single day. So that was like what happened to me isn't the powerful part of my story. It's how I took that diagnosis and I turned my journey into inspiration. And now I have platforms like this one where I can talk to people from literally all over the world. Like I was just on a podcast that's based out of Pakistan just yesterday. So like the reach here is very, very strong. All right, looks like Ian is back. And no, he is not. Uh-oh. This isn't looking good for us. Ian. Oh, I can hear something. There you are.
Holy cow.
I
am so sorry. I have been off in limbo.
It's like the second I introduced you, it froze.
I know StreamYard and Chrome don't seem to enjoy each other on my computer. So hopefully we'll stay stable for the rest of the conversation.
All right, yeah. So let's just dive in then. Go ahead and well, first, where were you joining me from?
Toronto.
Toronto. All right. Canada in the house.
Canada
all right.
In the
house. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how would you describe yourself at your core?
Well, at my core, I can I tell you a little story to explain
Absolutely.
the core? All right.
Yep.
So in university, I took a philosophy course that was based on a book, right? Not the book was the textbook for the course. The course was about the book. And I took the course because the book was about this thick and I knew I wouldn't read it unless I had to. And it was a very dense book. It was hard to understand. And I had to summarize a chapter on DNA. Now, this is back in 1980, 1981. So all this DNA stuff was all brand new, right? Yes. And so I had to summarize it for the class that we were talking about DNA, and then I had to write a paper on it. And the paper that I wrote was basically DNA for dummies, right? But I was fortunate enough that I had a buddy who was getting his PhD in genetic biology. So he was at the leading edge of DNA. And I just interviewed him, and I didn't understand half of what he was saying. But when I didn't understand, I'd ask questions, I'd ask questions, I'd ask questions. And I never came to understand it at the level that he understands it at. But I could understand it at the logic level by asking him questions and having him give me technical answers that made my eyes glaze over and that sort of thing. But I asked him questions and I was able to simplify it. And when you simplify it, then, I can explain DNA to anybody and have them understand it. And what going through that experience made me realize is that I can understand anything at the logic level, right? I'm never going to know DNA as well as my buddy, never going to know, nuclear physics as well as another buddy of mine, but I can understand, I can explain, quantum physics and Newtonian physics and that sort of thing, even though I don't understand them at a deep level. And so that thing, being able to take something complex, break it down into simpler pieces, right? Deconstruct the complex into the simple, look at it, on the simple level, the solution or the answer or how it fits together is much easier to figure out at the simple level. And then once you do, you just sort of ratchet right back up to the complicated level, and the problem is solved. And so that's, who I am at my core is I love taking these, complex issues and breaking them down and then being able to explain them to somebody simply so that they see the fascination in it that I see, like the
Love
fascination
that.
in how DNA works. So really it's and so when I work with companies to identify the one thing that makes them um, uniquely remarkable, it's so that they can explain themselves. And they don't until they identify what makes them uniquely remarkable as an organization, they don't understand how far off they are talking about who they are and what their real value is. So that's a real thrill for me, for them to come to that realization. Oh my God, for the first time, in this business, I understand what I'm doing and I can tell people what I'm, with a whole bunch of confidence and value, what I'm doing.
I like that. I want to. You said you used the word simplify, right? And I want to share a quick story about that myself. So I coach high school track and field, and when we're in practice, like I'm very hard on my athletes, right? Because I want them to perform at their best, right? I don't want them to just do what they can do. Like in track and field, in order to be exceptional, you have to do something you've never done, right? So getting them to think in that mindset. Like in basketball, you can only score 10 points, but your team can still win, right? Like in track and field, if you're looking to be a champion, chances are you're going to have to run a time, jump a height that you've never done before. So, in terms of simplification, on the day of the meets, I hear other coaches just like slamming their athletes with information, right? And kids nowadays, they don't have the mentality like we do. They didn't have that hard nosed upbringing, and you can't throw all that information at them without giving them that brain overload. Like for example, one of my high jumpers was in, and this was in the class meet, and he comes in, and I'm like, Cole, you know what to do, just jump over the bar. And you got some of the other coaches are like, you got on your penultimate step, you have to do the, and like that's throwing all these words at these kids, and you can see them, so on the day to meet, simplification, just give them happy words, positive words. That's like, you know what to do now, just go do it.
Right. Yeah. This is, what I'm talking about is, so I have this core belief. And the core belief is that an organization or an individual, the two things that they have, or sorry, the one thing that each of them has that is their single most valuable strategic asset. And I know when we talk about an individual, we don't think of talking about them as having a strategic asset. That's language that we most associate with businesses, but it's true for either people or organizations. That knowing the one thing at their essence that makes them uniquely remarkable is their single most important strategic asset. Because when you know what that is, and our standard is to describe that in 7 words or less. And if that sounds like, well, that's not a lot of words, mostly it's 2 or 3 or 4 words. So it's not a problem, getting it down to 7 words or less. The problem is figuring out what it is that should be, described in 7 words or less. And but when you know that, that can guide everything that you do and say. So if you're an organization, everything that you do and say, well, everything you do and say is all your operations and stuff like that, right? Like, what do you actually do on a day-to-day basis when you're at work? And then it guides everything you say, your branding, your marketing, your sales, all that stuff. But what it means is, rather than just operating, which is what most organizations do, they figure out their structure, they figure out, put the right people in place, figure out what they should be doing, and then do it. But every company, here's the thing, every company has a methodology, but almost no companies know that they have a methodology. And as a result, almost no companies know what their methodology is. But when you can define what makes you uniquely remarkable, inside of that is your methodology. And when you use that to design and guide how the company is going to operate, then how it operates always reflects the one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable, your superpower, right? You stay on what, know your knitting. And then once you know it, stay on your knitting. Well, how do you do that? You identify what makes you uniquely remarkable, your knitting, and have that design and guide how you operate, and then have it design and guide how you communicate. And so remember what I said, you asked me, I've taken this answer in a million different directions, but in your original question, you asked about simplification, right? So I have a methodology that creates a master blueprint for your future. If you're a company, that's one of my companies. And if you're an individual, that's my other company. And what that 3-part methodology does is very deep and very complex in terms of how it permeates the organization or permeates your personality and drives what you do. But it's only 3 steps.
Okay, let me pause you right there. I don't want to get too far ahead. I want to go back to what you said about
let me just describe the 3 steps first, because that was what I was leading up to. And then so it's just 3 steps. It's really simple. Define what makes you uniquely remarkable. Have it design and guide how you operate. Have it design and guide how you communicate. So it's super simple. Right. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. No, it's like, I know what you mean by strategic asset, but people listening may not. So I want you to go a little deeper into what that is. And part B, what do you say to the person that doesn't think they have a superpower?
Okay, so let me start there first. And don't let me forget the first question.
Okay.
There are over 8 billion people in the world. And even twins are not exactly alike. And so as long as there is nobody on the planet who is absolutely identical to you, you're unique. And whatever it is that makes you unique, there is something inside there that makes you uniquely remarkable. Now, I also have a belief that at least half the planet is walking around thinking there's nothing special about me, and therefore I can't do anything special, and I don't deserve anything special. And so when you can go through a process like we offer at Purpose U, where you define personally the one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable, all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, I do have a superpower. And no matter how much I get beaten down, you can't take that superpower away from me.
Thanks.
And when you do beat me down, it's the superpower that helps get me out of that. Okay, so now I remember question 1. That's the answer to question 2. Everybody has something that makes them uniquely remarkable. And when you discover that, all of a sudden you have a confidence that you didn't have before, right? And that confidence is permanent, because what makes you uniquely remarkable is permanent. So then you said strategic asset. What do I mean by strategic asset? What Purpose does, okay, and by the way, that's a brilliant question, because in the world of purpose, there's 2 things that drive me crazy. Is that everybody talks about all the wonderful benefits of purpose, this, that, and the other thing. But they don't tell you what purpose is, and they don't tell you how it brings you all those benefits. People need to understand the mechanics of how it works, or it's just a woo-woo concept. And that's my challenge, is that most of the people who operate in the world of purpose don't realize that what they're doing is they're perpetuating this woo-woo notion of purpose, when actually it's a tangible tool that helps you make better decisions. And here's how it does it. So I'll tell you what mine is. Mine is transforming confusion into clarity. So remember I said I took that really confusing DNA and I turned it into, DNA for dummies, transforming confusion into clarity. And so when I'm faced with a decision, when people are faced with a decision, and especially when it's an important decision, what am I going to do with my career, whatever, they say, what are my options? And the challenge with that question is that there are, inside the question itself, there are no parameters. There's no guidance for how to answer it. It's just this blue ocean. What are my options? If instead you say, which options are aligned with my purpose, transforming confusion into clarity, then all of a sudden, my world of options narrows, which sort of sounds like a negative, but no, because the options I'm left with are the ones who are aligned with who I am. So those are the options that are going to fit me the best. And the reason that they fit me the best is because the components of purpose are your beliefs, wants, and talents. And it's your unique combination of beliefs, wants, and talents that makes your purpose. So when you say, I'm making this choice because it's the one that's most aligned with my purpose, what you're really saying is, I'm making this choice because it's the one that most aligns with my beliefs, wants, and talents. And that's why decisions that are aligned with your purpose logically are simple and make sense, and they just feel right. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So I talk about purpose. Yes. Yeah, I talk about purpose a lot too on this show and when I'm guesting on shows, because I tell people purpose is when it becomes bigger than you. Like when I first got into fitness, like you can't tell with the background, but I'm sitting in a gym right now. And when I first got into fitness, it was all about helping people lose weight, helping people do this, helping people do that. And then as I started to grow, people started talking about, you believed in me before I believed in myself. It's like, you helped me get confidence. Like you helped me get, I'm like, this has nothing to do with weight loss or, what size pants you're wearing. And that for me was when fitness shifted from, because I really started it as a hobby. Like it was never supposed to grow into a 6-figure business, right? So something I started in my garage and it just blossomed. But it's like when you're in your purpose, it doesn't feel like work, right? It does. Yeah. Like I love coming here to the gym. I love watching people hit their milestones, climbing a rope, doing their first pull-up, doing their first push-up. Like that's what lights the soul on fire, right? This isn't a job to me. It's like I come here because people need me to show up and they need guidance. And so when you find that purpose, to your point, you see all the opportunities. And I tell people, it's like when you get a new car, all of a sudden you see that car everywhere and you've never noticed that car before. So when you step into your purpose, all the opportunities that align with your purpose become more visible.
Yeah, what you're kind of talking about there is the flow state that people get into. And everybody's, experienced that flow state at one point or another in their lives. And if you're lucky, you get to feel it all the time. But when you are deep in doing something according or aligned with your purpose, you get into that flow state because your beliefs, wants, and talents are fully engaged. I actually had a client that was a gym, and you'll appreciate this. He opened his gym. It was an acquaintance of mine. I mean, a really nice guy, but I didn't know him that well. But he opened it in February of 2020.
Ooh.
The lockdown happened 1 month later.
Yep.
So he gave me a call. He said, help. But here's the thing. You talked about purpose being about something bigger. And when you talk that way, not to be critical, but when you talk that way, people think that purpose is something out there. My purpose is to, help with whatever. But no, purpose is inside, either inside you personally or inside the heart of the business. So this poor guy, we did a blueprint for his business. I helped him out. I felt so badly for him. But here's the context for his business, right? You were talking about the epiphany that helped you with your business. Well, this was the epiphany that helped him with his. He had a boutique gym over a store in a upper middle class area of Toronto. And so what it means, that's all residential house. It's all, nice homes, 4 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms, and they're families. And so all of these people are into their sports, right? They go up north for the weekend to ski, they cycle, they play golf, pickleball's becoming a big thing. So all these people have their sport. And so what we decided to do was choose a positioning for the gym that recognized its organic geography, right? The people who lived around it. And we said, okay, these people are all very passionate about their games. And what you can help them do is raise their game, right? So it's not about fitness. It's not about nutrition. It's not about working out with weights. It's not about blah, blah, blah. But it is about all of that. But the higher goal is whatever your game is, raise it.
Yeah.
And so that's what his gym is committed to. People come in and he says, okay, tell me about your game and we will customize a workout routine. And it's going to have 3 parts to it, right? It's going to have preseason, so you get yourself ready for, let's say, the ski season. Then there's going to be the training that we do in season, which is meant to help keep you fit and healthy. And then we have the postseason, which is all about recovery. And then when the postseason is over, the preseason arrives again. So here's the thing about decision making and about raising your game being a strategic guide for decision making. The question became, okay, what are we going to call the gym? And we said, okay, well, what name possibilities are consistent with this idea of raising your game, having your workouts focused on your game, having 3 seasons that we work within. And we ended up calling it 3 seasons. And the idea of 3 seasons, it's like, wait, there's 4 seasons. What do you mean 3 seasons? It's like, oh, thank you for asking. What's your game? Your game has 3 seasons. We customize to each of the seasons, blah, blah. So you see how the name is aligned with the beliefs, wants, and talents or the purpose of the organization. And it just naturally rolls into a very compelling story that if you're a passionate cyclist or, passionate about whatever game you want, it's like, yeah, I want me some of that. Raise my game. And for me, I mean, I'm going to turn 67 in 2 weeks. Raising my game is keeping me here. It's not actually raising. If you keep me at the same level, that's a raise in my world.
Love that. Yeah, with my athletes, I'm constantly saying that on my show just yesterday. Like I had a meeting with my high jumpers, and I was like, all right, what's your goal? What's your goal? What's your goal? What's your goal? And they all kept very conservative goals. I said, guys, you have to set unrealistic goals, right? Even if you don't hit it, that's fine. But with one of my high jumpers, I'm like, all right, what's your personal best? He's like 5 foot 8 inches. I'm like, what do you want to jump? He's like 6 foot. I said 6'2". And his eyes kind of got all big. I'm like, there's only 2 extra inches. He ended up jumping 6'2" by the end of the season, and he qualified for the New Englands. And it's just from that raising your thinking to take your term. Because I tell people that the mind controls the body. I said, so whatever you think, the body's going to respond accordingly. Like, so if you tell yourself you're only going to do this, now, again, going back to being told I'd never run a jump again, I refused to accept that. Every day I got up and I spoke it with conviction that I'm going to run again, I'm going to jump again, I'm going to compete again. And you strike me as a very similar type of person that no matter what comes before you, you're going to get through it.
Yeah. I actually I found out an interesting source of that when I got a DNA test. And there is a gene, and I can't remember what it's called, but its nickname is called the warrior gene. And so when a fear-inducing, the reason it's called warrior gene is because when the bullets start flying and the adrenaline starts flowing, into the synapses, I would piss my pants just like everybody else would. Pardon my French.
Now, people have said way worse.
But what the warrior gene does is there's also a chemical that when adrenaline floods into the synapses, it triggers this other chemical that flushes the adrenaline. So what happens when the bullets start flying is everybody starts panicking. And then the people with the warrior gene quickly say, whoa, I better start thinking here or I'm going to get killed. And that becomes, how do I got to think clearly to survive this. And because the adrenaline has been flushed from your synapses, you're able to start thinking clearly again. And then you just pick up. And it's sort of the way I've been all my life. I mean, I've been knocked down probably the same as everybody else. I have not, had an inordinately easy or hard life. But, over 67 years, you get knocked down a lot of times. And I find, like, I feel it. I feel it just as much as everybody else. But then I'm going, how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? What do I have to do? I'm into that, fix it mode right away.
Yeah, right now I'm on week 8 post knee replacement surgery.
Oh boy.
And before I even had the surgery, it's like once I got my surgery date, I got the date in November and the surgery was January 14th. So once I got the date, I hit the gym hard. I was like, I need to get as strong as possible leading up to this surgery. And before I even had the replacement, before I even felt the pain or any of that stuff, I was already getting stuff on the calendar. And people were like, how are you scheduling something for June? And he's like, isn't this like a year rehab? I said, nobody but me gets to decide how my body's going to heal. I said, so I'm going into it with the mindset that I'm going to compete in June. When June gets here, if I'm not ready, then I won't do it. Like, I'm not stupid, right? But like I said earlier, right, the mind controls the body. And every day I get up, I attack my rehab.
Yeah.
When I started physical therapy, I asked them, what's the record for somebody getting discharged with a knee replacement? She's like, 8 weeks. I said, game on. I got out in 6.
Wow, that's great.
Again, right? I actually just saw the surgeon yesterday, and he asked me, he said, are you still out of work? I said, still? I said, I didn't miss a day besides the one night in the hospital, and I went to work that Friday because the way I operate, I said, I could be sitting at home in pain and not getting paid, or I could sit in a wheelchair in this gym and get paid. And people like, how are you going to drive? Yeah, they're like, how are you going to drive? Like, same way I do every other day. It's like I don't put limitations on myself. So when you're working with people, because a lot of people do put limitations on themselves, how do you help them see past them?
Well, so the answer to that is using your purpose as a decision-making tool, right? So whatever you're facing, whatever you're facing, you are going to have to figure out what to do no matter what. Whether you know your purpose or you don't know your purpose, you got to figure out when you're faced with a situation, if you're going to go to the left or go to the right. And so when you make that decision using your purpose as your guide, then it reduces the number of bad decisions you make, because you know that even if the decision that is aligned with your purpose, if for some reason it doesn't work out, it was still a better option than something that doesn't align with your purpose. So you're going to get to where you need to go faster if you're using your purpose as a decision-making tool. I worked with a guy who was the chief communications officer at a university. So when you're at the C-level, you're on the treadmill. You're working 12, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, a few hours on Sunday. And as a friend of mine once said, "What role does man play in the rat race?" I said, "What?" He said, "The rat." And so this guy was really the rat, and he knew it. And he said, "I've got 5 years to retire till my retirement. I need a little bit more money in my retirement fund to, retire comfortably. And I cannot imagine doing this for 5 more years. My wife will leave me. My kids will disown me." And he said, I'm just not sure what to do. And I said, "Well, let's figure out your purpose, and maybe that will give us some guidance." And he said, "Okay." So, we set out to do that. And what a shock that a guy who spent his entire lifetime in communications, explaining things to people in a way that they understand, that his purpose was make it simpler. And then when he looked at his life as the chief communications officer, he said, "Well, I've constructed just about as complicated a life as I can imagine here. And if I were to make it simpler, what would that look like?" And what it looks like is a career move that nobody ever makes, which is backwards, not by choice, right? He went backwards. He said, "This is the amount of money I need to make by 65. This is what 1/5 of that money is. Therefore, that's what my salary has to be." And it was modest. So he went out and he got a job as the staff writer for a not-for-profit, not the head of marketing, not the head of, no, a guy who goes in at 9 o'clock in the morning and he goes tippy tappy all day. And then he leaves at 5, and he doesn't think about his job again until 9 o'clock the next morning.
Yeah.
Boom. His life changed. He was so happy for that last 5 years. And then he resigned. He retired. And he and his wife bought a place in the woods, in a gorgeous place on the West Coast on Vancouver Island. And now he sits out on his porch every day writing novels. He wrote his first novel, got it published. He's writing his second novel now. That's and awesome. Why is he happy just sitting on a porch in the sun, tippy tappying, creativity coming out of his brain? Because of 3 words: make it simpler. They guided his life into that.
Nice. So I titled this 7 Words That Change Everything. So let's get into your 7-word system.
Sure. So for business, here's the thing. It's the same 3-part methodology. Define what makes you uniquely remarkable. Have it guide everything you do. Have it guide everything you say. For businesses, there's more elements to it. But the purpose of doing a blueprint is my purpose: to transform confusion about your future as an organization into clarity. Clarity that everybody gets. This is what we're doing. This is who we are. This is where we're going. Oh, wow, I get it. And I love that. I want to be a part of that. And then for individuals, so you can define what makes you uniquely remarkable personally, the course that you can see on the screen there, Purpose U, that company, it stands for Purpose University. And you can see it's .ai. And the reason for that is it's an AI powered course. So while you take the course, you have me sitting on one side of you holding your hand and a whole series of videos that leads you step by step through the process. And then you have our AI assistant, Wordsmith, on the other side holding your hand, helping you figure out how to word things better. But also, when you have a big pile of data, because that's what we do, we create a big pile of data about you. And then we say to Wordsmith, what do you see in there? What do you see? Give me 10 ways to articulate, right? So that's what Purpose U is. It's a course. It takes about 6 hours to take. So you can bang it off in an afternoon if you want, or you dedicate 2 hours a day for 3 days over the course of a week, something like that. But I lead you, and there's videos with my lovely face telling you all about purpose. But it's like lesson 1, blah 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 blah, and then you go to the workspace, and that's where you do the exercise for lesson 1. And you're doing that, like I said, with me on one side and Wordsmith on the other side holding your hands. And then you go back and watch a video and do lesson 2. And that's how you work your way all the way through it. First thing we do is figure out what your 7 words or less are, your purpose statement. That's what it's called. And then the next thing we do is we create what we call your purpose pitch, which is really just your elevator pitch. If you're at a cocktail party and someone says, what do you do? I'd say, well, I'm in the business of transforming confusion into clarity. And here's what that means. And it's always 3 sentences. The first one is the context. When people or companies face a situation, a really difficult problem that they just cannot solve, it causes them anxiety and wastes their time. That sets the context. Then the second sentence says, here's what the perfect world is. The perfect world is you have clarity about, all the outstanding questions, and you know exactly what to do. And you do that with confidence and peace of mind. And then the third sentence is, what do you do? And I say, I transform confusion into clarity by breaking problems down into smaller pieces where they're easier to solve. And that's my what you'd call in everyday life an elevator pitch, but that's my purpose pitch.
Right. Awesome. All right. So is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to throw in before we start to break things down?
I'm often asked, sometimes by individuals, but always by companies, when they're about to go through the blueprint process, they say, what can we do to prepare? And I say, well, just consider this question. If everything that you do as an organization is a means to an end, what's the end purpose, right? If all the activities, if everything that you do and everything that you say is a means to an end, what's the end purpose? Now, the reason why that helps them going into a blueprint is because normally they think that all the activities of the organization, our purpose is to do our business, to do, everything we do and everything we say. And it's like, no. Your purpose, these are all expressions of your purpose. I heard a great metaphor. Your purpose is the stone, and everything that you do and say is a shadow cast from that stone. So all the shadows will be a little bit different, but they'll all be related in that they come from the same source, right? So, so everything that you do and say as a business is the shadows. What's the stone, right? The stone, the way you articulate what the stone is you figure out what makes you uniquely remarkable. As I often do, I've forgotten your question, so I don't know if I'm on track here.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah. So let people know where they can find you, and then just give us a final word.
Yeah. Oh, I remember your question is that, is there anything else to say? And that's it, really. So that's how you start down your path to purpose. Consider the question, me as an individual, or, you as your company. If everything you do is a means to an end, what's the end purpose? And that gets your mind going. So you can reach me at one of two places. If you're a company and you want to create complete clarity about your future and have that articulated, summed up in 7 words or less, then you go to 7words.biz. So it's a different URL from one on there, but it's the number 7words, 7words.biz. And then if you want to know your purpose as an individual, you go to the place on the screen, purposeu.ai. So that's like Purpose University, and then .ai because it's an AI driven course.
Okay, awesome. And like I said, just give us some final words. Like, say there's a business owner out there that hears this, they're intrigued. What do you say? What do you say to that person to get them to connect?
Well, I'll tell a business story, but it relates to businesses and individuals. So when we complete a blueprint for a business, because one of the things we do is design and guide everything that you say, if that business has an advertising agency or any kind of communications, marketing or communications firm, this is now going to guide what they do. And so they will often ask us, will you present the blueprint to the agency? And when we go in, I know to expect this now. The agency has their nose out of joint because they think that they do what we do, but they don't. They don't have the skill set internally, and they can't charge for it. So they try to do what we do, but they have to spend a minimum amount of time, or they rack up unbillable hours, right? So noses out of joint, I present the blueprint, and at the end of it, somebody will say something to the effect of, for the first time, I know what to say about this client. And it's that clarity. It's like the veil lifts and the fog clears. And you go, oh, I get it. And it's easy now. And that's, so that clarity and the confidence and the ease that comes from it is true for businesses and individuals, because you're doing the same thing, figuring out their superpower.
Yeah, absolutely. Clarity is absolutely everything. Like you heard me say it in my intro. Why isn't this moving? Sorry, I'm getting ready for the. Oh, what did I do? Getting ready for the outro video, but my touchscreen is not touching. This is the downside of live streaming. And then when things go wrong, you can't hide it.
Well, at least we got through the whole interview without a hitch.
That is true.
After the glitch at the beginning.
True. Yeah, I think I think it's this one. Yeah, I don't know why, but the screen itself is frozen. But anyways, thank you very much for taking your time and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge. Like I can tell you're very passionate about it. Like you can always tell, like what I'm learning from interviewing people. Like when people get into their path, like you can literally see it. Like you can see it on their faces. I can tell that you are very, very, very passionate about what you do, and that's awesome. And thank you for taking the time to come and share. I think this is the outro. Like I can't tell because like I said, it's not moving. But
well, to your point, when that guy figured out that his purpose statement was make it simpler, and he went, "Oh, wow," right? Imagine how that made me feel. I mean, of course, it made him feel great, but I was the guy that caused that epiphany in him. That's why I'm passionate about what I do, because I get a huge dopamine hit from that.
Yeah, I tell people the money's great, but the real, like, just again, watching people have those breakthroughs, it's like that's what it is. Like I work with people who are afraid of public speaking, and then just watching them get on the platform and just crush it. It almost like brings tears, like watching your child excel at something. It's almost a very similar feeling.
Yeah.
All right. All right, so yeah, again, this thing is still locked, and I don't understand why. Like I can't even move it with the cursor. But anyways, we got to break it down. If I hit the wrong button, I'm sorry. I'm going to try to hit the right button. Just the very tip of the video clip section is playing. But I do panels also. If you're interested in coming back on this one, there were only 4, but it's usually myself and 6 other people. And we take one topic, like this one's embracing vulnerability, and we give 7 different points of view of that one topic. Right. And the guests always ask, like, oh, well, what if somebody says what I was going to say? I'm like, it's not going to happen. Like, I've done 17 of these things because we all bring a unique perspective, so if you're interested in that, let me know. And as I schedule them, I'll keep you in mind. Okay.
I'm interested. Let me know. Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Awesome. Yeah. Like a lot of good collaborations come from these panels too. Like people have co-authored books. People have started shows together. People have gone into business together. People planned events together. Like it's crazy. So yeah, a lot of good positive connections come too. All right. Yeah, I'm going to see if this is the right video. Then if not, then I'll just end it. I'll just end it naturally. But anyways, thank you again, and I'll be in touch.
Thank you, Robert. Should I sign off here?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
There it is. Wait, no, that's not it. Come on. Oh, it moved up a little bit. And it went away. All right, I'm just going to end it manually. All right, I'll see you. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.